When one neighborhood falls, another picks them up. As fire recovery efforts continue in Sinton, this group from Robstown has stepped in to help. Neighborhood News reporter Tyrese Boone rides along with these volunteers as they spread love in Sinton. Plus, flying into new skies. Neighborhood News reporter Alexa Scott tells us about the sky-high change to the way you fly. And on your mark, get set, go. Beach to Bay returns this year, but organizers are on a race to find more volunteers. Neighborhood News reporter Michaela Chavez tells us why your help is needed now more than ever. Chris 6 News at 5 starts now. And we thank you for joining us. I'm Andy Lascano. Corpus Christi made a big step today toward its first large-scale desalination plant. TCEQ commissioners approved a crucial permit today for the Inner Harbor Water Treatment Project. City leaders are optimistic about the project, which is expected to produce 36 million gallons of water a day with a tentative price tag of $757 million. Listen.
So today's historic decision by the TCEQ commissioners represents a crucial milestone in securing water not only for our direct community, but for the entire region.
However, not everybody's on board. An environmental group, along with residents who live near the proposed plant, tried to block the permit, but were denied. Looking ahead, the city is waiting for a final permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. If approved, construction is set to begin in 2026 with an expected completion date in 2028. Now, desal isn't the only alternative water source for the city of Corpus Christi. Last week, City Council held a workshop to discuss other alternative water sources, including the use of well water along the Nueces River, the Mary Roads pipeline improvements, wastewater reuse plan, and the La Quinta water treatment project. The presentations touched on timelines and possible costs. Most of the proposals discussed today would be long-term projects. Clean water, electricity, plumbing. You might take your day-to-day utilities for granted, but some neighbors in Robstown don't have that luxury. In 1981, 23 properties in Robstown were annexed by the city. More than 4 decades later, many of them are without utilities such as wastewater and sewage. Neighbors like Joe Ocañas, he's been without functioning shower and toilets and septic since his septic tank collapsed in 2021 during the statewide freeze. Neighborhood News reporter Adam Bean spoke with Ocañas, who says the city owes him and his fellow annexed neighbors what they're paying for.
We have been paying taxes all these years. Year after year, the city did not fulfill the contract of providing all the services that they promised that they would.
Adam Beam will have the complete story, including the city's response, coming up tonight on Chris 6 News at 6.
I'm Tyrese Boone, your Robstown Neighborhood News reporter. We're 9 days removed from the Sinton fires, and many neighbors still need essentials. But Robstown workers and neighbors have rallied to help. I spoke with the community about what these donations mean. Following multiple devastating fires, many Sinton neighbors are trying to get back on their feet, but they are optimistic about the help they're receiving from neighboring communities.
The love hasn't stopped, so everybody's still helping everybody out.
Including Robstown, where at the Richard M. Borchard Fairground, the Oakview group decided they wanted to take part and get the community involved.
I love the line where it says, neighboring communities, because that's what we are. We are here to support and help and just provide as much as we possibly can for families in need.
After they posted a flyer about accepting donations, neighbors along with their goods were able to drop off 16 bags of clothing, food, and other items in Sinton.
We appreciate Robstown giving these donations. They had called me when everything first started happening that they were going to be bringing these out, so we had some space for them.
And due to this support, donation locations across town are so filled with items, they had to stop taking physical donations.
It's still so humbling to see how people that have lost everything are still coming in and saying, hey, can I possibly get a toothbrush? We're like, here's a $100 or here's a $50 gift card so you can go get some toiletries, or we have all the toiletries that you need in donations.
As for neighbors I spoke to off camera, they tell me that they are joyful to see fellow communities help, which helps keeps their spirits high. As for donations, the Sinton Chamber of Commerce says they will only accept monetary donations. To find the link to donate, visit christv.com. In Robstown, I'm your Neighborhood News reporter, Tyree Spoon, Chris 6 News.
Tyrese, thanks for that report. Now, you want to do your part to help the fire victims? We've put together a list of places where you can donate to victims of the Sinton fire. Just go to our website, christv.com, or just scan that QR code you see on your screen with your smartphone. So as we approach the weekend, seems like the sun is shining brighter every day, doesn't it? Absolutely beautiful outside. Meteorologist Julia Quady's been keeping us updated with our neighborhood forecast. Just tell us all it's going to continue going this way.
It is for a minute, but it's not going to serve a positive purpose. I know you and I, we love the hot temperatures. We love temperatures in the 90s.
Yeah.
But the negative caveat is that all this dry weather, all the dry conditions,
Correct.
dry vegetations,
Yep.
we're going to see critical fire danger back in place for us tomorrow and as we look ahead towards this upcoming weekend. Right now, taking a look at our live Sand Dollar City Skycam over in Port A. There's another weather hazard we're having right now. It's that dense fog still impacting parts of the coastal bed, really impacting areas that are along the coast. So we can see, of course, poor visibility. Can't really even see our waters off to the coast beyond the beaches here in Port A as we look at our Skycam here. Looking at our dense fog advisory will continue to be in place for areas that are along the coast, including our Barrier Islands, until around 7 o'clock this evening. So just make sure you're driving carefully with extra caution if you are heading in those areas or if you're currently in those areas at this moment. And looking at our temperatures, we feel like temperatures across the area, again, very warm, hot, and muggy afternoon for us across the coastal bend. 90s further inland, 80s across for neighborhoods of more along the coast. But like I mentioned, we do have elevated fire danger that's going to be in effect in the coastal bend tomorrow. Other details on that in my full forecast coming up.
The race is on to find more volunteers for this year's Beach to Bay Marathon. I'm Michaela Chavez, your neighborhood news reporter in the Bay Area. With the recent date change, organizers lost a good chunk of their volunteers. Now, they need your help.
It's the biggest relay marathon in America.
It takes more than a village, it takes a whole city.
But now is the time we're calling for action for volunteers.
12,000 runners, thousands of volunteers,
The race wouldn't happen without volunteers.
including Kayla Salinas.
I want to say I've been with them 2 years.
She found her passion hitting the pavement for others.
I feel this sense of freedom, this sense of joy and fulfillment that it's hard to explain unless you experience it yourself.
Kayla will hand out thousands of packets to runners at this year's Beach to Bay. And if they need her for anything else, she's ready to lace up and get going.
I'm willing and ready. I'll zippity-zoodah over wherever they need me.
But this year, the race's date
The new date's May the 31st.
is on the same day as another big event.
The Navy base had asked us to move our date because they're having an air show on our regular date, and it just so happens that coincided with some graduations.
Because of that, race organizers lost an important group of volunteers.
We're about 50% of what we need to be right now.
That's why they need your help.
And it doesn't just start now, it started the day after last year's race. It's a year-round ordeal.
And there's plenty of jobs available.
There's room for everyone.
We have water stop groups that pass out water to the runners. We have groups at the finish line that hand out soda. We need volunteer groups to hand out pizza. There's people that hand out the finisher's medal at the finish line.
Jobs that even runners rely on.
Their life could depend on having water, so I've got to know ahead of time.
And the money raised goes right back into the community, into the very same groups that volunteer.
Instead of having a car wash or a bake sale or whatever, they can come and have a good time. We'll give them a free t-shirt and a little bit of money.
Beach to Bay is May 31st, and for more information on how to sign up or volunteer, just look for my story on christv.com. With your neighborhood news in the Bay Area, I'm Michaela Chavez with Chris 6 News, taking off.
All right, Michaela, thanks for that report. Hey, how about this now? Goodbye driver's license, hello real ID. There's a sky-high change to the way you fly, and we're going to give you the scoop when we come back.
You're watching Chris 6, part of the Scripps News Group.
Well, the deadline's approaching for you to get your real ID, but if you have a driver's license, why would you need it? Well, starting May 7th, driver's licenses won't be accepted at airports. Travelers will need a passport or real ID, and Texas has been issuing real ID since 2016, so many of you should already have yours. But if you're not from Texas, you may want to double check to verify if you have a real ID or not. All you have to do is look for the gold star at the top right corner of your driver's license.
Real ID was a standard that was implemented by the federal government after 9/11 that requires all states to provide individuals with driver's license or identification cards in order to access certain federal facilities, the biggest one being able to fly on an airplane here in the United States.
You'll also need a real ID or passport to enter federal buildings. You can find details on how to apply on our website, christv.com. Well, from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, even here in the Coastal Bend, more airline accidents seem to be happening this year already. But just because it feels that way doesn't mean it's fact. Patrick Terpstra digs into this claim on this week's Truth Be Told.
There was that plane in Canada crash landing and flipping over.
2504, how'd that happen?
A Southwest flight narrowly avoiding collision and catastrophe in Chicago. And the deadly midair crash between an Army helicopter and American Airlines flight outside Washington. Add to that a shortage of air traffic controllers, with the Transportation Secretary using Uncle Sam to recruit more people to patrol the skies. But truth be told, flying remains incredibly safe.
It is literally safer than walking out of your own front door.
Air crashes did increase slightly last year, up 9%. That still equals just one accident out of every 881,000 flights. The chances are far greater of dying in a car crash or as a pedestrian. One reason it may feel like there are more crashes, there are more cameras everywhere.
There's a whole cottage industry of folks that are called plane spotters. They sit at the end of the runway in their spare time or whatever. Before all of that stuff, if something happened, you didn't get to see it.
Veteran pilot Wiz Buckley says the high-profile incidents have probably made flying safer right now.
This would be the best time to be flying is because everybody's hyper-vigilant and they don't want anything bad to happen.
One more fact to calm your nerves. So far this year, there have actually been fewer aviation accidents compared to the same period last year. Patrick Terpstra, Scripps News Group, Washington.
All right, now taking a live look outside of our Skycam over SPID. You can see those roadways are looking a little bit busy, but not too congested at the moment. So you can expect easy traffic flow heading on either direction over on SPID at the moment. So go and take a look at the rest of those traffic flow maps though to get a better idea of what you can expect on those roadways across the area. Heading from Portland over to the Harbor Bridge in both directions, you're looking at a clear and easy drive heading in both areas over into the Portland area and coming to downtown Corpus Christi. Looking all good for the most part on Ocean Drive as well as on SPID. Heading on Saratoga, you can get a bit of a medium speed happening throughout parts of the roadway, but other than that, still looking pretty decent. Same thing happening on Waldron Road, a little bit more heavier traffic on Flower Brook Drive, but all clear on the JFK Causeway. That's it for Traffic Report, with details of your forecast coming up. Hey there, welcome back. I'm meteorologist Julia Quady. So we saw some dense fog throughout parts of the Coastal Bend earlier this morning, throughout this afternoon too, and throughout some areas that fog is still lingering, especially for neighborhoods that are along the coast. So more details on that dense fog advisory that did get extended for those neighborhoods in the next few minutes. Right now, taking a look at our CCC Skycam over Snoopy's Pier. We got this gorgeous sunshine out there. Of course, still looking at beautiful blue skies as well. That's just going to continue to be in our forecast. While that's a nice thing to look at, it's going to be a bit of a negative caveat, especially as we look towards the elevated fire danger that's going to be in the forecast tomorrow and for this upcoming weekend. Right now, taking a look at that dense fog advisory as promised, we can see it's got extended for areas that are along the coast and really just nearby our Marines areas and areas that are along the barrier islands. It's going to be in place until 7 o'clock this evening, so just make sure you're driving carefully if you're heading over in that area, or if you're just going to be there in general, just make sure you're driving carefully with that lower visibility for those locations at this point. Taking a look at our temperatures and feel like temperatures, though, very hot conditions further inland. Look at those temperatures in the low to mid, even upper 90s throughout some neighborhoods. But areas that are a little bit more closer to the coast, given a little bit more grace. Over in Port Aransas, currently seeing with your temperature at 69 degrees, 77 over in the Bluff, 88 degrees in Corpus Christi, 82 right now in Ingleside. It's that dry line that's kind of stalling right now, that's just adding towards those really dry conditions, that's potentially making temperatures all the more hotter for areas that are further inland at this point. We still have our winds still coming in from the southeasterly direction, just adding towards that moisture and humidity that's going to continue to build for us as we look ahead towards the overnight hours as that dry line continues to stall for us at the moment. Still a bit breezy though with those winds going nearby around 20 miles an hour at this point. Looking ahead at our humidity forecast, we can see that stalling dry line adding towards those slightly lower relative humidity values for areas that are a little bit more further inland. But looking ahead towards tonight into the early morning hours tomorrow as well on your Friday, we'll start to see that moisture really start to push on in, elevating briefly our humidity values into the 80s and 80 percentile type version there as we look ahead towards the early morning hours tomorrow because of those southeasterly winds. So that'll be briefly a positive thing until that dry line finally begins to push on through. As we look ahead towards tomorrow afternoon, a little bit after lunchtime, we can start to see our relative humidity values begin to plummet to around 15% or lower across the coastal bend, and that's going to continue as we look ahead towards your weekend as well. That's why we're going to have the elevated fire danger throughout South Texas and the coastal bend beginning tomorrow. All areas around the coastal bend, you're either going to be under a fire weather watch for areas along the coast as well as Refugio County, further inland and inland portions of the coastal bend under that red flag warning beginning at noon until 9 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. And I won't be surprised if either of those weather alerts get extended into the weekend as well, because that critical, very high fire danger is going to continue in place as we look ahead towards your Saturday, and we'll expect it to be lingering into your Sunday as well. Now, of course, that dry line is not only going to give us critical fire danger in the forecast, but we're also going to see potentially record-breaking temperatures as we look ahead towards your Friday, forecasting a high temperature of 97 degrees, smashing potentially our old record set back in 1971 of 95 degrees. Looking at your 7-day forecast, no rain in sight, and that sunshine and hot weather continues.
Summer in South Texas usually equals water. I'm Melissa Trevino, your neighborhood news reporter in Alice. I'll introduce you to some neighborhood swimmers who explain the purpose of their spring break camp at the Alice. I'm Melissa Trevino, your neighborhood news reporter in Alice. Summer in South Texas equals water. The Alice Natatorium is having their spring break camp focused on fun and water safety for our younger neighbors.
If you can't swim, to wear a life jacket.
That's Catalea Moreno. She's excited to learn to swim. The 7-year-old says,
I'm learning how to swim and to not be scared of the water when I put my face in.
She says she wants to swim competitively someday. For now, she's wearing her life jacket and goggles in the pool at the Alice Natatorium while her mom works.
Our objective here is so the kids can have fun while their parents are still out having to work. We provide, a safe environment for the kids to come and interact with other children their age.
That's Jessica Marufo, the director of the Alice Natatorium.
First and foremost, we always teach the kids you have to respect the water, follow rules with all bodies of water. Learning how to swim can eventually potentially save your life one day, or a family member or friend.
This year, there were about 20 kids at the camp engaged in activities other than swimming. 10-year-old Daniel Rodriguez has gone to the camp for the second year in a row.
So I'm having fun and I'm being safe when I'm swimming.
He's there to learn more about swimming, especially with lifeguards watching. According to Texas Family and Protective Services, in the last 5 years, there's been one water-related death in Jim Wells County for children between the ages of 0 and 17. Supervision is key to ensure safety for children near any body of water. These neighborhood kids want to remind everyone, covering your neighborhood news in Alice, I'm Melissa Trevino, Press 6 News.
A new high-tech exhibit at the USS Lexington is honoring women who've served in the Navy throughout history. The museum held what's called a soft opening today. In other words, they were putting the finishing touches on the addition, which includes interactive games, holograms, and artifacts that add to the experience.
This is our newest exhibit, the most ambitious project we've ever done, high tech with all of the interactive kiosks and everything. So it's a lot of fun.
The exhibit documents 117 years of women's service in the Navy. Steve Banta says even if you've been to the Lexington before, this new edition will blow you away. Always good stuff at the Lexington, always.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got some nice weather, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing, sadly, in this case, because like I mentioned before, you and I, we love the 90s, we loved all the sunshine, but it also means that we got elevated critical fire danger back in the forecast for us tomorrow and probably extended towards the weekend, just because we got round after round of dry air and weak cold fronts that just reinforce that dry air back into the forecast and create strong winds, which are the two ingredients that just worsens that issue.
We're back at 6 with more news from your neighborhood.